Welcome to the Elliott Alert. My guest today is Mr. Donald Muhammad, who's a community activist in our great city of Pine Bluff in Jefferson County. Thanks for coming, Mr. Muhammad.
Thank you for having me.
Now, tell people, tell our audience, who is Donald Muhammad? And why is it relevant to have a Donald Muhammad or even a community activist in our community?
Thank you. And that's an awesome question. But first of all, I want to say that it's an honor to be on your show.
Thank you.
The Elliott Show. Mm-hmm. I want to thank the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and those who support the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I am a member of the Nation of Islam. I am the local chairperson for the Justice of Else 10-15 Million Man March movement. But why is it relevant to have a Donald Muhammad in the city of Pine Bluff or in Jefferson County? Well, I was born in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. I'm not going to speak and put myself on a pedestal of any other individual in the community. I've went through the vicissitudes and trials and tribulations just like any other person's. As a young child, at 16 years of age, I did some heinous crimes. I done robbed some people. 16 years of age, and I ended up going to the Arkansas Department of Correction, and had to serve 12 years. To serve 12 years for robbery, and actually, I wasn't the one who actually robbed the person. I was just in the car, riding, drinking, and somebody jumped out the car and started and robbed somebody, and I ended up had to take the fall. So
I guess that's a testimony to kids who are in the wrong place at the wrong time or hanging around with the wrong crowd.
Right. Okay.
So even from that standpoint, it seems as though you've changed your life around for the positive, and you believe more so in putting things into the community that is positive than taking negative stuff out. But that's a testimony to say, okay, I was this way when I was young, because we have a lot of high-strung young youth out here, and I've seen you talk and mentor to them. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Right. Well, again, in the course of my incarceration, I was able to stumble across a few words from a man by the name of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And in those words, in those reading and doing my research in prison, it began to change me and who I was, and began to make me look at the world at a different view, the importance of the world.
Now, what view are you talking about?
The necessities of the reasons a person should be just in existence. Love of your neighbor. Treat other people like you would want to be treated.
Well, I mean, but I understand what you're saying in reference to that, but why would I treat people the way I want to be treated? Is that a norm in today's society?
No, it's not. It's not a norm. We're not gonna say that it's a norm to treat people how you would want to be treated, because this world is upside down.
It's changing.
And it's backwards.
Right.
So a parent, a person don't actually, we're not instilling those basic values or traits in our children today to help your neighbor, to love one another, to be kind, to be gentle. You know, to do some of those positive things. We're not instilling these things in our children at an early age as much at this hour.
Right. And see, when I said that, I was saying that because a lot of times, because we have a ton of churches here in our community, and our churches and a lot of adults and our mentors say, okay, love your neighbor like you would, or you should treat people the way you want to be treated. But if that was the case, then we wouldn't have so much crime, we wouldn't have so much deceit, we wouldn't have so much all that in the community, because people would take that to heart and say, okay, well, I'm gonna treat this person the way I want to be treated. So I think that that's a great thing to say and to hold. But how do we get people to that?
How do we get people to it?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's the awesome.
That's the $10 million question.
That's an awesome question. How do we get people to love one another and treat people right?
Right.
Well, the first thing that we have to do is we have to realize who we are. We have to show people who they are. We have to show people that they're not just human beings. They're not just animals, or they're not just human beings that they derive. We have to tie them back into the scriptures and show them how they are connected with God, and how God instilled his spirit in them, and show them the greatness, the creativity, the ability to, and their purpose and aims for being on the planet Earth.
Now, when you say take them back to the scriptures, now which scriptures are you talking about? Are you talking about the Quran, or are you talking about the Bible?
Well, I'm talking about anything that will point you to God.
Okay.
Any writings that will point you to your higher self, that will point you to the Creator, that will point you to that individual who created you.
Right.
There's only one God.
Right.
No matter how we fix it up, or how we fix it up, or what scripture or what document, there's only one God. And that document points you to your higher self, to that individual who created you. Okay. Then we're talking about those scriptures.
So it doesn't necessarily matter what you call them, but you want people to reflect back on a higher cause that will help them do the right thing.
Exactly.
Is that what we're saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And hey, that's a great thing. And now the second thing that we were going to talk about that we hadn't touched on yet is the 10-10-15 experience. Can you just tell me a little bit about that? Because we're about to go on break, but I want you to just talk a little bit about that.
Wow. The 10-10-15 experience. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan took the initiative. And he got the vision from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad to call black people in particular, but he called the human family together to unite for one cause, and that cause was justice.
Well, I tell you what, we're gonna go on break, but when we come back on break, we're gonna talk a little bit more about the 10-10-15 experience, and you kind of tell me what that was about, because I saw some of it, I think on CNN, but I want you to elaborate a little further about that. We'll be right back.
Hart, what's going on?
I'm leaving.
Why? What did I do?
Not enough. You constantly ignore me. You barely eat anything healthy. You're half as active as you used to be. The pressure is just too much. I quit.
Okay, I get it. I'll do better. Just please,
Don't leave. Okay. But remember, if I go, you go.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
Welcome back to the Elliott Alert. My guest today is Mr. Donald Muhammad, who is a community activist and who is also going to speak to us a little bit about the 10-10-15 experience and why it was necessary. Mr. Muhammad, can you tell us why 10-10-15 and why is it necessary to gather people and say what? I mean, what are we going to say that's going to change folks?
Okay. Let me answer that question, why it was necessary.
Okay.
But let me elaborate in depth on why it was necessary.
All right.
Sandra Bland, I'm not going to even elaborate on what happened to her.
Okay.
Okay. Trayvon Martin.
Right.
We're not even going to elaborate on what happened to him.
Okay.
We have had numerous of killings that's transpired by police officers in the custody of government unjustly.
Okay. Now, Brother Muhammad, you say it was injustice. Did they get indicted? I mean, what? Again, I may feel as though it's injustice, but has society said it's injustice?
Well, if you take a 107-year-old man laying in his bed named Monroe Isidore and kick in his door and kill him and shoot him when you have a camera instilled on him and watching him? You ask the question, was that injustice?
Well, that's debatable, because when you say, was it injustice, was anybody brought up on charges? Was anybody indicted for it? I mean, why did this happen? Is that same camera that you're talking about, is that somewhere where people can actually take a look and see and judge for themselves and see if it's an injustice?
Absolutely.
Who deemed it injustice?
That's just to like to say, well, Rosa Parks get on the bus and sit on the back of the bus, and there was a law that says that as Rosa Parks, the black people should sit in the back of the bus. Okay. And the law says that it's not unjust. Mm-hmm. But she sit in the back of the bus, but she decided to go sit in the front of the bus, and they handcuffed her and locked her up and put her in jail. So we asked the question, was that unjust? Was there an officer arrested for that? No, an officer wasn't arrested. You know, there's a lot of laws that's on the books that is unjust, but they're not being dealt with.
So, as a community activist, I mean, what are we gonna do about it? Because you're talking about the Mr. Isidore case, right? And I'm sure, and again, I don't know, but I'm sure that it was investigated, and I haven't heard today if anybody has been brought up on charges. But if it, and again, I don't know. I'm just saying I don't know. But if it was so unjust, why haven't people in the community stood up and said something?
Why haven't people stood up and said something on it?
Right.
Well, there's a certain thing that the government are very aware of, and they call that crowd control. Okay. They call that emotions control. When that particular case particularly came out, what they did was they put a gap order on the police department, made them where they couldn't even speak about it. Okay. They silenced the community. But you ask why? What's the 10, 10, 15 justice or else necessary?
Well, before we go into that, you said somebody put a gap order so that the police couldn't talk about it, right?
Correct.
Okay, well, should they be talking about it, especially somebody who wasn't there?
Well, it's like this.
Now, I mean, tell me.
Let me break it down to you.
Okay, break it down
to you.
Right.
It's like this. A man kicks in your door. Okay. Rob you and rapes your daughter.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, you're going to be tied you up now. Yeah. Now, you're going to be emotional. Yeah. You're going to be upset.
You're going to be hot.
You're going to be, if you was untied, you would kill that man.
I would.
Some would kill that man on the spot for violating the laws of God. Not the laws of man, but for violating the laws of God for raping your daughter. So, but you tied up, and they hold you in the room and keep you tied up for a long time. Okay, and he escapes. When he escapes, someone come untie you, right? Right. Someone come untie you. Right. And so now you get a chance to sit down and think about it, and you can't find that individual. The nature, your emotions begins to die down. Right. And they begins to not be so furiated about a situation. That's likewise with the Monroe Isidore case.
Okay. So you're trying to say the system at hand tied everybody down that made them less emotional about the case? Right.
When they put that order to silence all the law enforcement, they silence all government, they would not release any information until an investigation was complete. And it took, approximately 2 months, months to investigate a case. So after the investigation was complete, the community emotions had died down.
But I guess my question is, why would the community emotion die down after something as hideous as that happened from your perspective. I mean, why? Because if it was my daughter, if it was someone in my family, I don't care if it was 2 months or 2 years, I would still be emotionally tied enough to whereas I would still want justice.
Right.
Especially in
you will want justice, but you would not go to the means of executing justice. Because if that man had not tied you up, you would have killed him on the spot.
You would have took care of your business right then.
Correct.
So, okay. Well, I mean, that's two different perspectives on that. But let's talk a little bit about the 1010 experience and why that is necessary in our community of Pine Bluff. I mean, why do people from Pine Bluff have to gather and go to Washington or wherever it was to talk about some problems in our community? How would Washington know about it?
Let me break it down to you.
Okay.
That was a wise man a long time ago named, what was his name? Kareem Biff. But it was this guy that somebody took a hammer, they call and say, hit him in the head. And listen to me now, they hit him in the head. Then they came back and cut his tongue off. Took his language, hit him in the head, took this knowledge. So that's likewise, I'm gonna break it down to you. Okay. That's likewise with individuals in the black community in particular in Pine Bluff. We are not moving according to the knowledge that we should have or the wisdom that we should have in this day and time. We have lost a lot of the knowledge, a lot of the intelligence, a lot of knowledge of who we are as individuals.
How could that happen when we have so many black leaders in position who should be letting that knowledge go to help the other people? I mean, how can something like that happen? You're talking about a community that's almost 85% African American. So how could that happen in a community like that? I mean, think about it. If you were talking about a Jewish community that was 85 or 90%, do you think that they would lose the sense of who they are from that perspective?
It's just like if you go to look at in Africa and say, how can so many small people of not their originality or nationality control a whole continent?
Right.
And they live, you have in certain areas of Africa where you might have 3% of different nationalities in a particular region, but they are controlling a whole continent. How is that possible?
Well, I tell you what, we're going to go on break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the ways and that's possible. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Elliott Alert. My guest today is Mr. Muhamad. He's a community activist here in our great city, Pine Bluff, and in our area, Jefferson County. So, Mr. Muhamad, when we left, we were talking about how can such a small group of people control a major portion of it. And see, the thing that I guess kind of behooves me is that if you're the majority in anything, then you should have the say-so on what happens in your community. I mean, is that a fair assessment?
Right. But you should say, but that don't necessarily mean that you will say. So let me ask this question. Now, you can go, and for a prime example, go to downtown and go to the courthouse, and you will see pictures of a lot of people who have ran for prosecutor in Jefferson County. And you would ask the question, well, why Pine Bluff is a Jefferson County and Pine Bluff is a 80% black town, but why has there never been a black person who ran for Jefferson County prosecutor in Jefferson County?
Well, I can kind of switch that around. How about this? We're the ones the majority are the ones who elect the prosecutor. So if we wanted someone who was of a different nationality to run, if we support them the way we should have, they'll win. Maybe it's that people don't think that they'll get the support of the majority of the community to get it done.
That's one reason. But another in-depth reason is that throughout our history, through slavery, through the brutal treatments of how we was raised, how we have been through slavery, there have been certain engrams that have been put in us, and one of those engrams is fear. They made us fear them.
So you're trying to say a majority of people here in Pine Bluff, because we know a majority of people in Pine Bluff are African American. So are people afraid to vote for a black person and as a prosecutor? Because if that's the case, think about it. We have black aldermen, we have black, all of that, JPs, all these different positions. They wasn't afraid to vote for them, so why are they afraid to vote for a prosecutor?
In the Nation of Islam, we are taught to only present actual facts.
Okay.
So we don't go, even in the courts of law, hearsay is not permissible.
Okay.
So we can't go and say why the black people are not running. Only thing we can show is the facts that black people have not ran. Okay. And the facts have showed that we have never had a black man to be a prosecutor or a woman to be a prosecutor in Jefferson County, Arkansas. And the reason that I would like to present is fear.
Fear. Okay, well, that's a perspective, but I would say that if we have blacks in different positions, then I don't see how a person can be fearful of running for a prosecutor position. Maybe we need people of different origins to come, not just black, Hispanic, I mean all kinds.
It's a good old buddy system. So, it's a good old buddy system.
Okay.
I scratch your back, you scratch mine.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm not gonna step on your toes as long as you stay over there. And I'm gonna help you as long as you stay over there and you don't cross that line. But when you cross the line, it's gonna be a problem. So there's still a percentage of people who is running Pine Bluff. So that's why it's essential that we implement the justice or else thing. But what our primary focus is, what we want to do is try to put some courage in black people, and not just black people, but in humanity, in individuals all over the world, but particularly in Pine Bluff, to let them know if there's an injustice that's transpiring, that we're going to stand up for you. We're going to be there for you. And we're going to support you, regardless to the odds of who's saying that it should be like this here. We're going to be there for you. We're going to stand for justice today.
I agree that as a community we should stand for justice. And I agree that there should be an organization out there who's helping people stand for justice. But I think one of the issues that you're going to face is that when people see this, they're going to say, wait a minute, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of anything. You know, those who want to see an African-American prosecutor will say, or go to a lawyer or somebody and say, look, you ought to run for prosecutor. And if you do, not only am I going to support you with my vote, I'm going to support you with my money. Now, it may not be much. I may only have $25 or $100 or $5 put in your campaign, but I'm going to support you.
And let me ask you a question. Yeah. If you was the prosecutor, Mr. Ephraim Elliott,
yes, sir,
and a person in your neighborhood came up for a charge, and that you know this is a good person, is you going to be quick to slam the hammer and send him to prison? You know that individual. Right. We need people who live in our community, that we know one another, and that we know if you done violated, we're going to deal with you. Right. But if you live in the community, you're going to be God's his prevailing attribute is mercy. And grace. And we have to be able to tap into that attribute.
So what you're saying is, in today's society now, what we have is we have people more enabled to put people in the system and be done with them, not to rehabilitate them. Because here's the underlying factor. Those people who we deal with swiftly and put them in prison, you think you're locking them away, but eventually they got to come back into our community.
And not only that, it's a major money-making scheme. Now, Obama stood out and he has visited prisons. And you have never seen a president done that ever, to go into the prisons. And that's a major mark for our history. Now, the prison system is designed all the way from the juvenile justice system. You know, it's designed to put people in just like it was in the slavery time.
Well, now, are you saying that we should do away with the prison system? Because we need prisons, because there are violent and bad people out here in America, not just our community, but in America. Now, I think that
we don't need prisons. What we need is the right education. We need the individuals. We need men and women to be able to. We need the right education all around the world. America is the only country that has prisons all over the world. You would not find governments investing all their money to enslave their population.
I don't think that we're investing all our money, but
a lot of it.
It's a lot of it spent in prisons. But I think it's a little bit more than education, because even with education, there are violent people. I mean, you have people who are going into movie theaters, executing people. You have people who are.
But why? Why are they doing it?
Sometimes there's a mental issue that we're dealing with. Sometimes there's just evil, mean-hearted people, and that's when I think a
person can only do that which he knows. Let me explain it to you.
Okay.
A person can only do that which he knows. You can't go and fix a pipe that's been busted if you don't know how to go and you don't got the tools to go fix it. Right. Now, let me ask you another question and show you. They had did an experiment on a black child and a white child. And let me say this real quickly. And that black child had to look at a doll that was white and black. And they said, choose which doll. Choose one of those dolls. Which one of them looked the prettiest? The black girl chose the white doll. The white girl, she chose the white doll also. You see what I'm saying? So why? And they asked the black girl, they said, why did you choose the white doll? She said, because the black doll is ugly. Why has she been taught that that black doll is ugly? And how was she taught that the black doll was ugly? And why did the white girl say that the white doll was ugly? Because she had the proper knowledge of herself, and that black child did not.
Well, I think that also deals with the parents and us investing time in our children and letting them know who they are. So I think this is a debate that we could have on and on. And I think it's a good dialogue, because you're opening eyes to a lot of different issues in our community. But if somebody wanted to get in contact with you, how would they get in contact?
We have a Stop the Beef hotline, Justice or Else, in Pine Bluff. Okay. We want to resolve a lot of conflict in Pine Bluff. And you can call my number, 870-872-0946. Or you can hit that conflict resolution number, which is No Beef Kind. NOBEEFKIND. No Beef Kind, to help resolve some of the conflicts that in our community. Will be there.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on, Mr. Muhammad, and just let you know you've just been placed on alert.
Thank you.